Well, welcome back to the book of Genesis. We are going to finish the book of Genesis today with the final chapter, chapter 50. Here we go. Then Joseph fell on his father's face and wept over him and kissed him. And Joseph commanded his servants, the physicians, to embalm his father. So the physicians embalmed Israel. 40 days were required for him, for such are the days required for those who are embalmed. And the Egyptians mourned for him 70 days. Verse 4. And when the days of his mourning were past, Joseph spoke to the household of Pharaoh, saying, If now I have found favor in your eyes, please speak in the hearing of Pharaoh, saying, My father made me swear, saying, Behold, I am dying in my grave, which I dug for myself in the land of Canaan. There you shall bury me. Now therefore, please let me go up and bury my father, and I will come back. And Pharaoh said, Go up and bury your father, as he made you swear. So Joseph went up to bury his father, and with him went up all the servants of Pharaoh, and the elders of the house, and all the elders of the land of Egypt, as well as all the house of Joseph and his brothers, and his father's house. Only their little ones, their flocks, and their herds they left in the land of Goshen. Verse 9. And there went up with him both chariots and horsemen, and it was very great gathering. Then they came to the threshing floor of Atad, which is beyond the Jordan, and they mourned there a great and very solemn lamentation. He observed 7 days of mourning for his father. Verse 11. And when the inhabitants of the land of the Canaanites saw the mourning at the threshing floor of Atad, they said, This is grievous mourning of the Egyptians. Therefore its name was called Abel Mizraim, which is beyond the Jordan. So his sons did for him just as he had commanded them. For his sons carried him to the land of Canaan and buried him in the caves of the field of Maccapath before Mamre, which Abraham bought with the field from Ephron the Hittite as property for a burial place. And after he had buried his father, Joseph returned to Egypt, and his brothers and all who went up with him to bury his father. Verse 15. Joseph reassures his brothers. When Joseph's brothers saw that their father was dead, they said, Perhaps Joseph will hate us and may actually repay us for all the evil which we did to him. So they sent messengers to Joseph, saying, Before your father died, he commanded, saying, Thus you shall say to Joseph, I beg you, please forgive the trespass of your brothers and their sin, for they did evil to you. Now please forgive the trespass of the servants of the God of your father. And Joseph wept when they spoke to him. When his brothers also went and fell down before his face, and they said, Behold, we are your servants. Verse 19. Joseph said to them, Do not be afraid, for I am in the place of God. Verse 20. But as for you, you meant evil against me, but God meant it for good, in order to bring it about as to this day, to save many people alive. Now therefore, do not be afraid. I will provide for you and your little ones. And he comforted them and spoke kindly to them. Death of Joseph. Verse 22. So Joseph dwelt in Egypt, he and his father's household, and Joseph lived 110 years. Joseph saw Ephraim's children to the third generation. The children of Machir, the son of Manasseh, were also brought up on Joseph's knees. Verse 24. And Joseph said to his brethren, I am dying, but God will surely visit you and bring you out of this land to the land of which he swore to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob. Then Joseph took an oath from the children of Israel, saying, God will surely visit you, and you shall carry up my bones from there. So Joseph died, being 110 years old, and they embalmed him, and he was put in a coffin in Egypt. And that is the end of Genesis. Very, very good book. One of my favorite in the Bible. Well, we see Joseph upset over his father's death, and then we see Joseph reassuring his brothers. And again, we see here, let's read verse 20. But as for you, you meant evil against me, but God meant it for good in order to bring it about as it is to this day, to save many people alive. His brothers, Joseph's brothers, are worried because of what they did to him in the past, originally selling him to the Egyptians, and they're worried that Joseph is going to hold a grudge against them, and he is not. That is all in the past. He has forgiven them, and that's what we need to do. As I said before, we need to forgive others so that we can be forgiven. And that's something I personally have really struggled with, but in the last year or so, I find myself, my prayers are that those that I used to call my enemies, I now call my friends, and that I forgive those that did wrong to me, as I need to be forgiven for the wrong that I've done. I pray that a lot, almost every day. And then we saw death of Joseph. We saw Joseph pass away, and it didn't say that he was put and buried in the same place as Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, but he said he was buried in a coffin in Egypt. He put in a coffin in Egypt, pardon me, so that would not be in the same place. So I will be looking that up. In fact, let's just run to the back of the book here really quick, because there are maps back here. And it is so little, I can't really read all that stuff. Well, I can, but let's see here. Well, anyway, I'm going to look this up later on Google it and see if I can't come up with. And here is Canaan. There we go. Yeah, well, Canaan is, this would be Israel right in here. Very interesting for sure. So I will look that up and see if I can find, just for my own self, find information about where Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob are buried. And then we will start getting on to the next book here, which should be very interesting. So it kind of ended with the promise of the promised land in here, and that's what Exodus is going to be all about. This is going to be the second book of Moses, and we're going to be introduced to Moses here very, very soon. And that's all going to be about bringing these people, the children of Israel, out of Egypt into the promised land, the land that was promised to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob in the Abrahamic covenant. Yep, Moses is born. So very, very interesting. Can't wait to get into all that. So that will be coming up next. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please like and subscribe. And I will see you in the book of Exodus coming up very, very soon. Thanks for watching, and God bless.